I'll try not to swear.
And you said that right at the beginning of the recording. I love it. Good morning, everybody. Great to have you. I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm so particularly excited to be with Tanith. I'm Katie Phillips. I'm the founder of this School of Self-Love, and I'm an intuitive and transformational coach. And I work with women who have a sense they don't really know themselves or love themselves, which is really the perfect link into running an interview series like this, like My Menopause, where we're talking all things menopause, because the key thing that's really been coming through over the last couple of days of interviews, and I've interviewed some incredible experts, and I've got 5 more today, and I'm like buzzing. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. The common themes really does seem to be this sense that menopause really does invite a woman to go within. And it really is an opportunity for her to really finally, once and for all, heal anything that's not working in her life, transform it, get to know who she is, learn to take care of herself, learn to start putting herself first and loving herself. So, there's all sorts of ins and outs to how you do that. And we've got all sorts of experts from all different fields explaining how you can support yourself through menopause. But the key piece around self-love is prevalence. So obviously that's my bag, and I'm so excited to be talking about this subject with you guys. And today I was just saying to Tanith right before we came on live, I'm just so excited, Tanith, to have you. I've been really looking forward specifically to this interview.
Right. Oh gosh.
No pressure.
No pressure.
For those of you who are joining on Facebook, welcome. You are very welcome to type questions in the Facebook feed. We won't be answering them live through the interview, but I'm sure Tanith won't mind going in at a later date, maybe later today or tomorrow, and answering any questions you have there. And those of you who are live here on the Zoom interview, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A box, and you can type in your questions, and we will get to a point soon in the interview where we can go over and I'll ask those questions directly to Tanith. So, darling Tanith, let me introduce you to everybody by reading out your little bio. So Tanith is known as Mrs. Menopause, and actually, just to say, when I first, I have to say this, because when I first put out on Facebook that I was looking for experts to interview, I was blown away by the number of people that suggested I've got to interview Mrs. Menopause, Tanith. I happen to have known Tanith for years and watched your journey, and as we were discussing just before coming on live, like, you are the one the radio stations call now. It's like, we're talking menopause, we need to call Mrs. Menopause. And you're like the go-to girl, and because you are, our line of questioning today is very much I feel it's going to answer every woman's immediate questions about menopause. So you're the one to answer it, I know. Anywho, Tanith is on a mission to take the meh out of menopause. Tanith went through menopause in her mid-30s, which is a dramatic change so young. Her experience of riding the hormonal roller coaster and navigating the social and emotional changes that happen around the menopause have enabled her to help other women going through the same symptoms. Now a qualified nutritional therapist, and her 13 years of experience in the health, fitness and wellness fields have added to her experiences, making her an absolute expert in working with clients with hormonal flux. She's helping one woman, let me rephrase. She's helping women one hot flash at a time. I love that. Welcome. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we need to kick off with your personal menopause story, because it is quite unique, and
okay.
If you don't mind sharing.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So what happened for me, as you've mentioned already, it started young. It was a word that I don't think I'd even thought, to be honest, Katie, let alone realised I was going through it. So what was happening for me in my kind of mid-30s, I was getting terrible night sweats, and I'd been having them for a while, and I do believe they were hormonal and menopause related, but I probably think at the time I was enjoying life a lot. I was a bit of a party girl, and it probably was to do with that as well. But I think it was the start of things changing. So that was a big symptom for me. But then what started to happen was, it was here. that the changes started to happen. Like, you know, depression, I was getting anxiety, I was just feeling very isolated. My mood changes were crazy. I was up and down. I didn't know what was going on with myself, let alone anybody else around me. And I knew something wasn't right. I've been having some coccyx pain, which isn't really related, but it kind of is, because I went to see an osteopath and he said, look, you've got the Mirena coil. Why don't you have it taken out, have it removed, and just to see if there's any connection, just to see, because we were scratching our heads about what was going on with this coccyx. So I had the Mirena removed, and I had one bleed, and then I didn't have any more periods for at least 6 months. And I just thought, oh, by now I would have expected my periods to have restarted. I was still feeling weird. I was still up and down. And what I kept doing was taking pregnancy tests. I knew it was hormonal. It didn't feel right. So I kept taking pregnancy tests, you know, negative. I'd had already got 2 kids, but, you know, it didn't feel right. So eventually I went to the doctor, probably about, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, I think, after that bleed. And I went and saw a doctor, not my usual doctor. I think she was a locum, but she said, okay, let's do some blood tests. So I went off and, you know, she took my blood. I didn't really think much of it, went about my business. And at the time I was still doing quite a lot of personal training.
Yeah.
And I was at a client's house and I was sat in the car, and my phone went, and I saw it was the doctor's surgery. So this is probably about a week or so later. And it was this doctor, and she was ringing me, which I thought, well, that in itself is a bit unusual, isn't it, to get a call from a doctor. And she said, oh, we've got your blood test results back. I was like, oh, okay. And she said, yeah, looks like you've gone through the menopause. I'm like, sorry, what? And she went, yeah, you've gone through the menopause. This, you know, your FSH levels are really high. It looks like you've gone through it early. Basically, in her own words, and this is what she said, go to your local health food shop and get some supplements. Goodbye, basically. That was it. And I was just left. And I remember sitting there stunned, like,
how old were you?
37.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, wow. I'm not quite sure that's what was going through my head, but yeah, something like that. I was like, what's going on, you know? So I remember walking to my clients just feeling a bit stunned. And from there, I started to talk about it. Being the personality that I am, I kind of share lots. And so I started talking about it on Facebook. And, you know, at the time I was heavily in the fitness industry. And other fitness professionals were like, oh, yeah, we want to know about this. And the women were kind of like, oh, yeah, this sounds really interesting. Nobody's talking about menopause. And that's how I started to then, you know, start to research it more, look into it, talk about it. Because this is, 8 years ago now. And people really weren't talking about it at all. And it was quite funny. My mentor at the time, actually, somebody was talking to him, because he used to be in the fitness industry, about menopause. And he went, oh, you need to go and see Tanith. She's Mrs. Menopause. And I went, oh, I like that name. And that's how the Mrs. Menopause name came about. Mm-hmm. And so that was my story. And I'd love to say it was all like, you know, easy and it was plain sailing since then, but it wasn't. It took me a couple of years of trying different things. You know, I went to see a brilliant doctor, when I was first diagnosed, which is probably not the best word to use. She was a private GP, nutritional therapist, and did bioidentical hormone therapy. So to me, she was like a goddess. Yeah. And it was great. She helped me so much. Susie Rockwell, I think her books are shut. She's so busy. She helped me loads, just to be able to talk to somebody that understood what I was going through. And she gave me, she put me on this bioidentical hormone therapy. And it was like somebody had turned the light switch back on. I was like, bang, I'm back. This is great. And that worked for me for a while. But after a little while, my symptoms started to come back again. I was getting what I now know was estrogen dominant symptoms. And when I had blood tests, it showed my estrogen levels were just off the scale. So everyone was like, oh, you need to back right off the HRT. So I did. And then I had about a year with nothing, no HRT again. And during this time, I was sent to see a gynecologist who put me on the Mirena. No, he didn't. He put me on microgynon. He put me on the pill, which didn't work for me at all. I didn't get on with that. I felt like I was kind of going back in time a little bit. So that didn't feel right. So I come off that. Try a different HRT with some success. Took a time, it's a bit of a faff trying different HRTs. And the thing, I wasn't worried about going HRT because of my age, because I was still so young to go through it. My body was still expecting to have good quality, good levels of hormones. I just needed to feel better, Katie. I just was willing to do anything. I just wanted to feel better.
I actually think that's when we first met, when it was...
Do you remember when I had that? I mean, I remember having a meltdown with you, didn't I? I literally sat around the table, weren't we? And I just didn't know what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And it was that process. But the HRT, you really helped me. And then what happened? So yeah, more backwards and forwards. See the GP. My GP was super helpful. She was trying to do research. She was, really trying to do the best she could, and she was great. But in the end, it still wasn't really working for me. I still wasn't feeling right. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was still very tired. My moods were up and down. So I was then referred to, because I was kind of more in the know because of me doing research, and by that time connecting with lots of professionals, I went to one of the menopause clinics in London, NHS one. And that was great. They were brilliant. They gave me everything I needed. They gave me blood tests. They just, and that was me on my journey, feeling better for about 3 years. And I've actually been off HRT for 6 months now, because I just wanted to get in touch with my body, and we'll talk probably a little bit more about this later, but I just kind of had that feeling. I'm 46 and I've been on HRT for about 3 years. Just wanted to see what was going on with my body, just to see, because technically I'm 8 years post-menopause.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see what my body was doing. And it's been a really interesting process. I got hot flushes when I stopped the HRT, which I never had hot flushes, or if I did, when I first was going through the menopause transition, I had maybe a handful, no more than a handful. But I suddenly started getting these feelings of warmth and getting hot at night and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What's going on here? And my fatigue come back a little bit. Mood's been okay. So I'm just kind of monitoring at the moment. I've never said I'll never go back on HRT. If I need to, I will. But what I have done, which has been brilliant, is I've seen a gone to see a herbalist, a medical herbalist, and they've gave me this concoction of different herbs, which I've been taking, and I actually think they've been really making a big difference for me. So they've been prescribed for me in the dosages that are, that will suit me, but they've worked really well. So that's kind of very quickly 8 years of menopause.
What blows me away is that you found out once you'd done perimenopause, and you come out the other side of menopause. That's when you found out. I mean, that must have been such a shock.
Yeah, I was kind of, I was in the transition, because it was it was a massive shock, but I was still kind of going through it, kind of, I think. It's quite hard to work out because of the coil and everything else. Yeah. Shock, massive shock. And I actually, because I was facing symptoms and trying to get through the days and work out what was going on, it really wasn't maybe until, I would say 2 years after, that I started to kind of get into this acceptance around it, and start to really be aware of more of the grief process as well. It kind of suddenly hit me, that, oh my God, I'm really young. I'm really young to be going through this. My choice of having children was taken away. Thank goodness I had 2 children, but that choice, something's taken away, you want it, don't you? That choice was taken away. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old before my time. Does that mean I'm suddenly going to age? I put on a load of weight. And we can talk about that later as well, why that is. All this stuff happened, and I don't, because I was in it, I don't think I really accepted it and felt the real emotional kind of repercussions of it all. That change was happening so young to me. But now I see it as a blessing, and I can say hand on heart, I absolutely see it as a blessing, what's happened to me now. I can say it now because I feel okay.
What's the blessing about it?
Well, the blessing is, you know, at my young age for menopause, I've been given the gift, I've been given the wisdom that I have now. I've been given the new attitude that I think I've been given through menopause, a self-awareness I never had before, ever had before, younger. And I've been given that, and I see that as a gift because I've created, you know, a business that I absolutely adore, sharing my experience and helping other women with the same thing. And I mean, that if that's not a gift, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I hear you. I think most of our biggest trials and tribulations in life are an opportunity for us to actually help other people once we've overcome it. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Absolutely, yeah. So I do feel, you know, it's a gift. And if I looked at it any other way as well, then, you know, I think mindset's massive through menopause. Massive.
Yeah, it is. Well, look, you now, because of the work you do, I want to ask you some quite generic questions because your experience is very unique, and I know that you're going to be starting to speak more and more about early onset menopause because so much of your experience. And you work with a lot of women now, so you're seeing lots of different variations of menopause and how it affects people. So when can we expect to be going through menopause generally?
42.1 years. No, it's not really. I'm joking. I'm really joking. It's it's really hard, isn't it?
When should we start thinking about the menopause?
When should we start thinking about menopause? Right. So I would love to be able to talk to women in their early 40s, like yourself, and say, right, you know, you can't not think about it. It's going to happen at some point. Your hormones are already changing, whether you're feeling it or not. The changes are happening. From the age of 35, changes are happening. You know, start to look at what's going on. Start to listen to your body and get in touch with your cycles, and start to notice if you're starting to feel any different than you had been. It could be, sometimes it's really slow as well. So that would be my message, you know, that don't bury your head in the sand. When menopause is being talked about, and if you're in your 40s, don't go, oh, that's not for me. I've got 10 years. You know, now is the time to be thinking about it, right now.
Yeah, totally right.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I'm running this series, because I'm sure I'm now in perimenopause and I'm only 43, and I went, what? How? It's too early. So how do we know that? What are the symptoms? If we're going to start in our early 40s, to start to take notice of our bodies, just maybe even keeping a little diary of what's going on with us. You know, what's like, how will we know that we're actually experiencing perimenopause?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question, because you know, we women, we all experience life differently, don't we? And that goes for PMS, pregnancies, whatever's going on, and it's going to be the same for menopause. But the things I hear most commonly are changes to the periods can be a really good indicator. So that can be you know, the cycles change in length, and also the flow of the period as well. A lot of women get very heavy periods. So that's a really good indicator something's happening. And the thing I think a lot of people don't necessarily connect with menopause is a lot of mental health issues, and it's not really talked about that much. And that was a big part of my story. I mean, it took me right to the edge, menopause, literally. So feelings of anxiety, you know, low mood, you know, mood swings. These are the kind of things that seem to be quite common symptoms. Things like, you know, we hear about the hot flushes and like vaginal dryness, and all those kind of changes tend to happen closer to your last period. But again, I am being really generalist here.
Yeah, that's so helpful. It's so helpful. And it's interesting for me to, you know, I'm reflecting and looking back, and I've been going to the GP and more recently to an Ayurvedic doctor with a big complaint of heavy periods, like really like off the scale, awful every month. Nobody, not one person suggested maybe it's perimenopause. No one. And so I'm really learning here, because now I can look back to the last couple of years in particular and realize, gosh, well, maybe that's what was happening. My hormones are starting to change, and it's all part of it. And interestingly, I'm coming out the other side of that already, which is a real relief. Thank goodness. Yeah. But yeah, funny to me that nobody actually thought to say, and I wonder if it's because of my age. I wonder if it's because I'm not 50, you know?
Absolutely. But then, you know, heavy periods aren't necessarily just to do with perimenopause. Of course, there can be other reasons for it as well. And that's, you know,
But
that's when we need to.
mentioned. It wasn't even a suggestion. It was, what the suggestion was more scary. There were like C words being mentioned and so on that I had tests for, which I'm totally fine. But it was never mentioned. It could just be a hormonal shift because perimenopause is around the corner or in it. Just,
I know.
Interesting. How long does it last?
How long does it last? Oh, what a great question. So some women, and I don't know what the real stats, but it's about 75% of women get some kind of symptoms. So we've got lots of women. I know lots of women that their periods just stopped and they didn't get any symptoms. So, you know, you've got women that don't get any symptoms, and then you get women that seem to have perimenopause for like 10 years, and then they have symptoms afterwards as well. They're still having hot flushes afterwards, up to, you know, you hear women in their 60s and 70s having flushes. Now, I would question that, what's going on with that, because that could be some other stuff, health stuff going on as well. So it's like,
right.
There's no definitive answer.
Yeah, and for you, I mean, it started young and you're still managing it, and you've been the other side of menopause for 8 years, you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I know that, I mean, I've got a few other kind of issues, if you like, going on, but adrenal fatigue, my adrenals are, if I don't look after my adrenals, as in like my blood sugar levels, looking after my stress, sleep, then I know then I will start to get what I would term as kind of hormonal symptoms coming back.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's really hard to say, and answer your question, how long it lasts. Because every woman would have a different experience. But the more we have conversations like this, the more women will go, oh, maybe it's that. So maybe this new anxiety that I've never had in my life could be to do with hormonal change.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why these conversations are so important, because I was saying this to one of the experts, I think on Monday, that for me, a lot of my symptoms I've been making little shifts in my diet and just my lifestyle, just little things that already make the hugest difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that the experts have been saying to do. But I think the biggest shift for me is the awareness. It's just knowing and being able to say, oh no, I'm not going crazy. And I haven't got all these separate things going on. Actually, it's one thing. It's perimenopause. And just that awareness, I swear, has had an effect on me physically and made it easier physically, just because there's the mind-body connection, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something. I was going to say, yeah, I think it is that. I think that is the awareness. And the thing I hear over and over again from women in like my communities and people I speak to is one is like, oh, I didn't realise that was a symptom. I didn't realise. Women just think it's hot flushes and no libido, which again is can be a bit of a myth. You know, but women just think it's that. They don't realise that there's all this other stuff that are going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally. Actually, before we go forward, I feel like we just need to define as well, what is perimenopause and what is menopause? What's the difference?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I mean, I could probably go one step further than that as well, actually, because of my history. So perimenopause is the run up to your final period. So these are the years before your final period, and this is when women start to get the symptoms, if they're going to get them. Don't we mustn't assume every woman's going to get symptoms, and I think that's a really important point to remember. I think we're kind of assuming that we're all going to get symptoms, and we're all going to feel crap. It doesn't have to be the case. So we have that. If you experience menopause before the age of 45, then you have what's termed as an early menopause. And if it's before the age of 40, it's called, and this just slips off the tongue, premature ovarian insufficiency, POI, which is the category I would have come in. So there's different stages beforehand. Menopause literally means the end of your periods. It means your final period, if you like. And I know other your interviews have said this is 12 consecutive months of without a period. So you don't know you've had your last period until you look back. And what happens, I've seen this time and time again, women get to like 10, 11 months going, yes, yes. And then a massive period will come out of nowhere. Mother Nature will be like, ha ha ha, fooled you. And they have to start the counting again. And then after that period, then you're post-menopause and you have the rest of your life to enjoy.
Right. Wow. But even post-menopause, you can still be having some hormonal flux.
You can be. You can do, and some women do. Yeah, and if I would say if anybody is still having hot flushes, or they still feel something's going on post-menopause, I would probably go and see someone and have a chat to an expert and try and get to the bottom of it, because it may not be menopause. It could be something else going on that's causing those symptoms.
Right. But we do tend to generically speak about the whole experience as menopause.
Yeah, it's just easier that way, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So you're working with so many different women and you're seeing all sorts of things coming across your desk, for want of a better word. What are the most common things that you're seeing?
Symptoms,
yeah. What are the most common things that a woman is presenting to you with that you're helping specifically?
Okay, so hot flushes and night sweats and insomnia, if you like, for a better word. So real bad trouble sleeping, and that may or may not be connected to night sweats. So they're really common. Change in mood. As I said, I mentioned this anxiety, wanting to isolate. I'll come back to that if we've got time. Depression. Mood swings, just snapping at people around you, maybe more so than normal. I don't know, but those are the kind of things, and weight gain.
Right. Tell me about the wanting to isolate. I'm interested in that.
Okay, so the isolation thing, I hear this a lot, and it was my experience too. Was just kind of that feeling of drawing into oneself. And I question that for me personally. It's like not really wanted to see anyone, not wanted to go out. I had a bit of lack of confidence, and I thought it was just part of maybe depression, and it could well have been. But I firmly believe when we have symptoms of menopause, it's actually our body really, really trying to have a conversation with us. Perhaps a conversation we've been ignoring for most of our lives. You know what I mean? It's trying to make itself known. There's something going on. If we're having symptoms, there's an imbalance. And our bodies can't tell us specifically what that imbalance is. So I think it's that conversation. But the isolation for me, my theory is that it's a time for us to withdraw and isolate, to look within and see what's going on. That's how I see it. And I think it's the ideal time. It's the perfect time to do that at menopause. Perhaps if we've had children, they're older, we're not needing to look hands-on, look after them so much. Perhaps we've got a little bit more time to look at our own stuff. And I think that's my take on what happens during the menopause. It's the ideal time to look at our life laundry and see what's going on to then move forward. So that's what I think that whole isolation thing's about.
I really agree with you. It really does seem to be a time to go to look inward because of our habit. And this is the work I'm doing with women, as you know, is that it's outside of ourselves for love, approval, attention, significance, whatever it is. And we got to shift that and look within. And through menopause, our body is literally saying, hello, look at. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But are you seeing that when women are going through it, though, that they isolate unnecessarily, though? Is there some...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because they're not really understanding what's going on, I think. They're not really questioning it. They're kind of thinking, oh, I'm feeling like this. I'm not really sure what's going on. And perhaps they haven't connected that it's to do with menopause. And they're isolating, and they're not talking to their partners or to their friends about what's going on for them, what if they're having symptoms or how they're really feeling, because perhaps they feel like they're going a bit crazy, or they don't feel comfortable talking about this kind of thing with other people. And I think that can make you feel very much on your own. And as women, we need connection. Connection is a massive word in my life, and I think even more so. We need the village, don't we? We women need that village. We need the women around us to help us. I get this time and time again, like, yeah, me too. I feel like that too. I thought it was just me, you know, and that's why we need to share and practice somehow being a bit more open and honest with those around us. It's not easy for everyone, but I think it's really important. It's the antidote. Connection is the antidote, I think, to isolation.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's really interesting because I personally have been feeling what has coincided with my perimenopause, or realizing that I'm in perimenopause. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, before I even realized it, I felt such a calling to, I need more women around me. I felt as like my body was actually saying, I actually was feeling isolated, and I was like, I need women. I need to talk to women. I need maternal influence as well, because I don't have my mum anymore. And I felt like I need that, which I'm totally getting in buckets through this series. It's awesome.
It's made all my hair stand up when you just said that, you know, because it's so true.
It's so true. Yeah. And there's a couple of women that I know I'm going to be interviewing later today that when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, I was in tears with them because I felt like I just was connecting to an older, wiser, it makes me feel emotional right now.
Yeah, me too.
Connecting to an older, wiser woman that's been there, done it, and can show me the way. And we need more of this. Like I personally, okay, so I might be a little unique. I don't physically have my mum, but regardless, not all women who even have their mums have a great relationship with mum, or even feel able to talk about this. But to have a wiser woman to lovingly guide you through something like this is very special, very important. And yeah, I'm feeling really emotional talking about it, but it is, we need sisterhood, and we need the wise women in our community. Like, our society is really shit at that, actually. You know, the older woman has almost become like invisible. And that's why this conversation is so important, because what we're realizing is the older woman has so much wisdom, so much to give, so much life experience, so much youth still within her, actually. Like, menopause is just, we've got another half of our life to go. We should be celebrating these women. They've got so much we are these women, you know, at our age, we've got so much to contribute. It's not over, you know.
I absolutely agree. And you know, it's just in our culture, isn't it? You know, if you look at other cultures and other indigenous tribes around the world, how women, the wise woman, you know, the crone, I mean, it's, you know, the medicine woman was the wise woman who had all this experience, but we don't have that same mentality, do we? Unfortunately, I don't think, especially, you know, in the UK or the US, it's just, it's a different mentality. And I think this is why, as you say, it's important to have this conversation and look at role models, look at women we look up to. I mean, I do as well. I mean, I'm always sharing, like, you know, Facebook, love it or hate it. You know, sometimes it's really good because there's lots of when I ever see like a positive image of an older woman, or, you know, older woman, just, you know, you can see she's loving life, or you can, you know, I'll share that, because that's what we should be looking at for, I guess, inspiration.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. Amen to that. So, Tanith, what are our options for managing menopause?
Great. Yeah, I mean, there are so many options available to us. It depends which route you want to go. I'm not particularly pro or anti HRT. I think it's another tool that is available to us, and I've seen it change lives. It literally saved my life. You know, when I was going through it, I remember looking sat on my bed with my iPad in front of me, Googling what's the quickest way to die, because that's where it took me. And you know what? Was I going to take HRT to make me feel better? Hell yeah. You know, it's a personal choice. And I see women attacking other women for making a choice what they want to do. And you know, I can't, it's horrible to see that. You know, in my community, it's like women supporting women. So I think women need to be able to make a choice, and be okay with that. So HRT is a choice. You can go to your GP, you can find HRT. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find one that works for you. You could go to a menopause clinic and they can prescribe HRT, perhaps in a slightly different way to your GP, a little bit more because they've got more knowledge. you could have bioidentical HRT. Do you know what that is? Has that been spoken about, Katie?
Well, we've got a couple of different experts at the end talking about HRT,
Brilliant.
bioidentical hormones.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got bioidentical HRT, which people are saying is a more body form ready version of HRT. So that's what I was taking. Other options are lifestyle changes, which tend to be the thing that people don't want to do so much of, because they think it's going to be strict and boring and hard and stuff. But it doesn't have to be. I'm back in my fitness days. I was the one putting women on strict detoxes, working them really hard, feasting them, if you like. And it worked for about a week or two, then it's not working. I couldn't figure it out. But of course, now I've got my experience, knowledge, and education. I know now that doesn't work for everyone. It works for a very small amount of people. So now I tend to talk to women about kind of nourishing themselves first. So adding lots of healthy foods in, lots of vegetables and plant-based foods, and making sure the meat they're eating is organic if they can, and just adding lots of nutrients in before I even say about maybe reducing caffeine or reducing sugar or reducing, dare I say, alcohol, because some of these things women are holding on to because it makes them feel better. And to say, well, I want to take that away from you as well, I just think it doesn't work for everyone. So I try and work a little bit differently, just trying to add stuff in. Let's build the body up, give it what it needs. It's going through a big change. So it's like being pregnant. You need to have more nutrients, more vitamins. You need to get all that goodness in you, support your body, and then see what you need to be doing after that. So there's loads of choice. Lifestyle changes can make a huge difference, but it's knowing where to start. It's confusing, isn't it? There's so much conflicting information, but I think just start with one thing and do that consistently and see how your body responds to that. Yeah. There's herbal as well. For me, going to see a herbalist. I'm not sure I would advocate somebody maybe going to a health food shop and just buying some supplements, because some of these herbs are powerful, and that's why they restrict the amount they put in the herbs, because they really work. And the only way you're going to get the quantities you need to really make an impact is to go and see a specialist. And supplements can be really powerful, and they can interact with medication. So I would always recommend going to see somebody who knows what they're talking about with supplements. But there's loads of things women can do. Does that help?
So helpful. I love the way you speak about it too. It's so down to earth. I just love it. Excuse me. I also love you. There's a couple of things you said there that I think are really unique and powerful. One is just, rather than immediately going to the default of taking away, adding in first. And then maybe experimenting. Well, if I remove this, and then I found that just in the last 2 weeks, with 0 caffeine and 0 alcohol and 0 red meat, in the last 2 weeks, I haven't had any night sweats. Gone. And so that's brilliant. Now, that's my son's birthday tomorrow. I will definitely probably have a glass of wine in the evening to celebrate. But, or maybe I'll keep it to Friday night. Actually, I'll get this interview series out of the way, so I'm like firing on all cylinders. Yeah. But, I will, but I have noticed that just making a couple of little tweaks for me has made a massive difference. Yeah. But I love that idea of just adding in the nutrients. I think that's awesome, and I also like the idea of just testing out. I mean, here's the thing: what's the rush? We just well, why don't I just experiment for a couple of weeks with no alcohol? Just see what that does.
Be curious.
Yeah, just be curious and then take the pressure off and not try and get it perfect. Because I think someone was saying yesterday, and I know I can be guilty of this because working in the industry I'm in, I'm very kind of clued up on all things well-being, and it's very easy to have so much knowledge and then beat up on yourself when you're not getting it perfect all the time. I'm not haven't made the perfect breakfast smoothie today, or stuck to my whatever. So it's easy to on ourselves. And
I think a really good point to I want to get across is women beat themselves up all the time. You know that, I know that, you know, we all know that, and we know that. But women keep doing it. They keep beating themselves up about stuff. And when my experience going through menopause was all I wanted to do was eat sugar. Okay, so I just carbs, because my body was trying to, in some way, get the lift it wanted to my mood from serotonin, well, with my brain, you know, neurotransmitters. My body was actually trying to work for me in that state. It was actually like, I want you to feel better, so this is what I know for you can make you feel better. Yeah, I know in the long run it actually made me put on a load of weight, and you know, whatever, you know. But I think we feel like our bodies are our enemy. You know, when we're going through the menopause, we lay on a bit of body fat because our fat cells actually produce one of the estrogens. We have 3 estrogens, produces one of the estrogens. Our fat cells produce it. So when our ovaries start to stop producing so much estrogen, our fat cells go, oh, hey, I can help out here. I'm going to put on a little bit more fat around you so we can keep that estrogen going. So we can protect your bones from osteoporosis. Oh my God, our bodies are amazing. I think that's amazing, you know, but we're like, oh, I don't fit into my jeans, you know, and I'm like, hang on a minute, step back. Your body's really trying to work with what it's got here. So just, I think it's good to step back and see the bigger picture sometimes, you know?
I do. And that really touched me, you saying that we beat up on our bodies so much, they're really just trying to help us. That's like self-love 101 right there. I mean, our bodies aren't against us, and yet we're in this like war with them, and which is the reason why menopause is the opportunity for us to go within and start to listen to ourselves and have a conversation with our own body and listen to its wisdom. Listen to
Absolutely. I think the more I'm in awe of my body. Internally, you know, just the makings of it. Of course, it's what I've trained in, and I know so much more about all the cells and what they're doing right now. It's amazing, you know. And it's like with them, and we just, as you say, we beat up on it. And I'm like, hang on a minute, it's going through. It's, you know, we could make other human beings. We produce, you know, we go through all these changes. We can do all these things, and we get to menopause. We're like, oh no, I hate you. You know, I stop it. I want to go back to how I was. I want to hang on to where I was. Stop doing what you're doing. It's like, hang on, just see what's going on. It's just incredible. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Perfect. No, don't shut up. I love this conversation, and it leads perfectly into what I wanted to ask you next, which is, you know, what are the positive aspects of menopause? Like, what is positive about this? Let's get to that.
Okay, the positive aspects of menopause. I think once you let go of that menopause, aging thing, I think it's, one, you lose your periods. A lot of women are like, don't have a great time with periods. So I think that's got to be a big bonus. Alongside that, goes maybe contraception as well. Because if you're not having periods, you know, as long as you've gone through that up 12 months, after that, you won't need contraception. And it's a bit of a myth that every woman's libido disappears at menopause. I've spoken to a couple of people lately that their libido went sky high at menopause. So it comes from liberation, I think. Anyway, I think I have an attitude now where I don't give so much of a shit about things. I'm sure there's a better term for that, but it's that attitude of like, meh, is it really that important? You know, I'm more accepting of my body these days. I don't try and make it fit a mold that it doesn't want to fit anymore. I'm much more open and honest about what's going on. It's made me have to communicate with people better, and I just think there's a sense of liberation and excitement. It's like, oh, what's next? Oh, do you know? But I understand if you're in the throes of symptoms, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, whatever, because you've got to deal with what's in front of you. You know, I think you've got to kind of get through it, and then you start to look up and go, oh, okay, this can be this can be different, this can be liberation, freedom, this can be adventure.
I love that. And I think there are people, you know, it is, I love having the positive conversation about menopause, because I think that message needs to be communicated more and more now. And as you and I have discussed before, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of women do have a tough time through it.
Yes.
And I guess a really key piece that I'm becoming more and more aware of is if you are having a really tough time, is to not do it on your own and to get support. And there are actual experts like yourself, and there's all of them, there's 90 of them on the series this week. We've got some bonus ones coming next week. There you go, there's a little bonus.
Little teaser.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, don't do it on your own. You don't have to do it on your own. Get support.
Absolutely. And you know what? When you put it up on Facebook and what you're doing, and I just saw the amount of experts and people that are doing what we're doing now compared to what they used to be, it's like, oh, thank you. Because there's so many women that need help. There's so many women out there that need someone to talk to who will understand what they're going through.
Yeah, no, it's true. That blew me away, that Facebook feed. I couldn't keep up with it.
I know.
Was enormous. It grew arms and legs, but it was very encouraging.
Yeah.
Very encouraging. There are people out there that know their stuff and can support you.
Yeah.
And the reason this series is called My Menopause is we're all so unique and different, and we all need different things. So we need all these different experts with their different takes and the different personal experiences to help. There's someone out there for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or a group of people from different pieces that you just get to piece together your own puzzle and create your own plan, and I think it's very exciting. Tanith, we've got a couple of Q&A questions come in. Jean has been on the series. She has literally been on every single interview. I'm loving it. I don't know what you're doing all week, Jean. This is awesome. But Jean's asking a question to every expert, so she's totally milking it, which I think is wonderful.
Brilliant.
Yeah. She says, I found that my GP wasn't sympathetic and wouldn't go back to talk about postmenopausal symptoms. Who would you advise to see next in my case?
Postmenopausal symptoms. It depends what the symptoms are, but there are, there's people like myself, nutritional therapists, who can treat the whole body so they can have an understanding of what's going on. You could see somebody like that. You could see a GP that specialises in women's health. You could see, if you don't see someone in the NHS, there's certainly somebody private that you could see. And it may be, there's other types of complementary therapies as well that maybe help. Things like acupuncture and those kind of modalities can also be really useful. But maybe don't give up with the GP. Perhaps you need to see another GP in your surgery, and everyone's, we can all see whoever we like to see. There may be like the what they call it, the practice nurse. Maybe go and see her. There's more and more nurses specialising in menopause. There's more and more nurses being trained specifically to help women through menopause. So it may be worth going to talk to the receptionist if you feel comfortable to, and finding out if there's somebody else you could see.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, Jean, like if you look at the lineup of, there's 19 women, I'm going to have a couple more next week. And I didn't even I've had women approach me wanting to talk about crystals, and we want to talk about acupuncture and a whole lot of alternative health stuff. And maybe there'll be another series in that. Watch this space. I don't know yet. Don't hold me to it right now. Let me get but I'm pretty sure that with the plethora of women here in this space just this week, you'll find somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, lots and lots of women, lots of thank God for the internet, another blessing, because you can work with anyone anywhere in the world. Yeah.
That's it exactly. Okay, beautiful. And then somebody else whose name I can't quite pronounce, I think it's a code name, has asked, is HRT only prescribed once you are officially in menopause, or can it be used in perimenopause?
Yeah, so absolutely, it's used in perimenopause. Perimenopause, remember, is the time that we get the symptoms. So that's when our hormones are starting to fluctuate. They're going up and down. So absolutely, that's the perfect time to use it.
Beautiful. I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one thing you wish you could tell every woman the moment she realizes she's in perimenopause?
Listen to your body. Don't ignore the voice. Just acknowledge what's going on and track. Maybe start to write about it. Maybe diary. you know, really start to notice what's going on with your body, and then connect with somebody else to help, whether that's a friend, whether it's a professional. You know, just the sooner you can, because if you're getting symptoms, there's an imbalance. The sooner you can rebalance that, the easier it will be. Unless, you know, if you leave it 5 years and ignore it, it's going to be a lot harder to kind of get your body back into balance. So as soon as you start to feel a bit off, listen to that voice, go and see someone.
Yeah, beautiful, perfect advice. And to wrap up, is there any final message, final piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Final piece of wisdom. Really, I think my message is to listen, is to go within and listen to what's going on, and then realize that it's a transition, it's a transformation. My favorite word at the moment is we're evolving. You know, it's moving from one phase of our life to another, and it is a transition. It doesn't go on forever. And then the other side, I just think, you know, it isn't all downhill. It's what we hear all the time, don't we? Oh, well, it's all downhill from now. It's not. You know?
Yeah, we've got to stop saying that. We really actually need to control or delete that language from our vocabulary.
Yeah, absolutely. Mindset. I mean, I could talk to you all day about the whole mindset around menopause. I mean, we do need to start changing the language. Absolutely.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. And I know you have a free giveaway, which anyone that's subscribed to the series already has the link on email sent out. But you've got something, what is it, a symptom diary? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, a symptom diary. Because I tell you, I mean, I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, but it wasn't. I was talking to a friend, and because I was like, oh, because, you know, I still have days, of course I do, that I feel tired, my mood's a bit crap, and, you know, I want to have a down the duvet. And I was talking to a friend, she went, you know, just because you're not bleeding doesn't mean you're not necessarily having a cycle. And I was like, good point. And I thought I should probably track how I'm feeling, different elements, my sleep and my mood and my energy and all those things. Just have a track over a month, over perhaps a moon cycle, and see over a few months what's going on with my body, see if I am actually still following some kind of cycle. So I thought, oh, perfect. So I put together a symptom diary, and I went, oh, actually this could be really useful for my community. So it's literally a 31-day. At the moment, it's just like a chart. You can put a little tick on if you're getting symptoms, but also what I've done, I've put room for if you're using any supplements, if you've been exercising, if you know, drinking water. So you can do a little tick on those as well. And some different lifestyle suggestions. So what I'm hoping is when women start to do this, is just that top level, looking if there's any patterns. You know, oh look, well, I went for a walk that day, really good dog walk, and actually I slept better that night. Oh, okay. So do you know what I mean? It's just that, it's that connection that we seem to lost.
Piece, isn't it? It's like, start to get to know yourself rather than operate on autopilot. It's get conscious. Yeah.
Well, it is, and especially, you know, it depends if women are having periods and stuff. I think women are so majority of women, I'm totally generalising, are really disconnected from their menstruation cycle. Whether if they're on contraception and stuff, obviously that takes that equation out, but we still have cycles. And I just think having that connection back into us is a really good way. So that's why the symptom diary evolved.
Perfect. I love that. That's such a great gift. And I will make sure that I put the link to that in the Facebook feed under this video. Oh, yes. I'll put it over on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and any feedback on it as well. If I've missed stuff off, or you think there's anything that would be useful on it, just let me know. I'm always happy to change it, you know, give them feedback.
Perfect. You're such a star. Thank you so much for today, Tanith. I love our conversation, and you're right. We could talk for hours on all different aspects, but we've done pretty well. I've been on for nearly an hour.
Oh yeah, we have. Wow, where's the time go?
When women start talking, and it just doesn't end.
Yeah, magic happens.
Magic does happen. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the world. You're awesome. I adore you.
Thank you for asking me.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, lots of love.
Lots of love.
More interviews coming today. 4 more to go. Woohoo!